Hi and welcome back to Box to Light. Today we're going to be learning to play this Euro game, Crown of Emara. Don't switch off just yet. This is a super little game actually, and I don't get to show many Euro games on the channel, and this one has built-in solo rules that play just like the regular game, and that's one of the best things about it. Is the rules are simple, kind of like Guilds of London. The base set of rules is simple, but the complexity comes from the cards, the different cards, and the interactions they provide. So Crown of Emara is your traditional engine building resource management Euro game where you're trying to drive to create resources that you can translate into effectively victory points. Thematically, the idea is that we have to satisfy citizens in the city of Emara, but not only do we have to satisfy the citizens, we always have to keep them content by providing them buildings. Okay, and you have these two victory tracks, and you're going to take the lower, kind of like Tigris and Euphrates, where you've got two scores and you take the lower of your scores to determine your final position. Right, I'm going to show you how to play the solo game. We're going to walk through a game and show you why this one is hitting my table at the moment and I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to take the role of the red player, who plays 1 to 4. I've got a player aid to tell me how my turn looks. Very simple. I've got a player board that has some craftsmen on here. These are kind of upgrades I can put on buildings. Here's my leader. I've got 2 councillors. These are effectively my workers. And it's not really worker placement. Instead, it's a roundel mechanism. So your councillors are going to go on the roundels. I'll show you these in a second and select the actions you want to take. But you also get to choose actions by these cards. Each player has an identical deck of 9 cards. We're going to draw 3 of these cards each turn and use them to take actions. And with those actions, we're going to be gathering resources from the countryside roundel and or taking actions to get building or citizen points. I'll show you how these work in a second. Now these 2 roundels, they act independently of each other and they're kind of random, right? Like little jigsaw puzzles. You just shuffle them up and set them up in these 4 quadrants in a random order. And on these roundels, you're going to use these tokens. These are your councillors, and they're always going to be going clockwise to take actions. Okay? We've got 4 types of resources. You've got grain, you've got stone, you've got wood, and you've got cloth. And you've got 4 types of buildings over in the town that let you turn those resources into stuff, into points mostly. We've got the cathedral, the castle, the construction site, and the market. Now the base rules are very simple. Don't be intimidated by what appears to be loads of stuff going on. And I'm going to dive straight into gameplay and show you how this works. Up here's the score track. I'm red player. I'm going to start on 0 here. And we've got, in the solo rules, you're playing against a dummy player called Victoria. They don't really act like a player. It's more like a base score to race against and just to take down some of the game elements. Right, but the game rules for you are identical to a regular multiplayer game. So this is going to be your citizen points. How satisfied are your citizens? You've got a second marker. Victoria doesn't need one. This is your building points. How well does your city accommodate your citizens? Now normally you'll start here at 35. There's actually a way of randomizing the starting point for building points. In the solo game, we're actually going to start on 40 because we're going to kind of play in this campaign mode, kind of like a ladder of success. Between games, if you win a game, this goes down by 5. If you lose a game, it goes up by 2. Okay, and thereby you can kind of keep track of your overall campaign score if you like. Now, the reason why building points start up much higher is, for the most part, you're trying to earn points to satisfy citizens. You will boost building points as well, and like I said, whichever is the lower at the end of the game of the 2 becomes your final score. Okay. Having building points lower means then you've got to put more effort into boosting buildings, and that's why that kind of, it starts up here at, like I say, at 35 normally, and the lower it is, the harder the game becomes because you've got to put more effort then into spending points on buildings. The game's going to last 6 rounds. I would say that typically you're catching up with your building points halfway through the game, okay, after 3 rounds. Depends where you're going to start it. Say for the solo campaign, we're going to start at 40. And there's lots of ways of earning points. They're mostly over here on the town site. Like for example, you can at the cathedral turn resources into books, and then at the market you can turn books into victory points, or at the castle you can turn books into building points. You can also in the countryside turn grain into bread, and then at the construction site you can turn bread into victory points. Here you can turn stone into building points, or you can turn wood into building points. Right, so there's lots of different ways of getting victory points. Another way is to use these advisors. We're going to set these up in a random fashion at the start of the game. These are ways to give you bonus points, so an immediate 3 victory points for grabbing this landlord, for example, but it also gives you a bonus that you can turn cloth into building points. So at the start of the game, these are going to be placed in the town. So every game is going to be different. There's a set of A advisors. They have an A in the bottom left and right corners. And the ones that are unused go back in the box. And then as these advisors are grabbed, you've got a set of B advisors which are also randomized, and these are going to be used to kind of replace them. So this is ways of building up your engine building aspect, if you like. There's also a little bit of setup difference in these two places, in the cathedral and the castle and construction site. As I said, at the cathedral you can turn resources into books, but the cost of doing so kind of clicks down as the game goes on. Alright, so it gets more expensive, if you like. In the solo game you set up as the 2-player game here in the cathedral and the castle, but here in the construction site you set up as the 4-player game. Okay, so this is how much citizen points you get for bread and for stone. There's another bit of randomization, and that's this event card deck. So we give this a bit of a shuffle. We're going to see 6 of these because there's 6 rounds in the game. The first one we see, all it does is used to set up the game. So if we wanted to use a random number of starting building points, you can see in the middle here it says 25. We could start the game with 25, but we're going to ignore that in the solo game. We're going to start at 40. And then it tells you where first player places their councillors. So in the countryside on the stone, and then in the town on the cathedral. And that's it, this card's now done. And we're into round 1 of the game. For round 1 of the game, this effect is now in place. Right? So we ignore all this stuff now. It's called good labour conditions. And this means throughout the course of the first round of the game, it's going to cost me 1 less resource to hire an advisor. Okay, so if I wanted to hire this landlord, normally it costs 1 stone and 2 cloth, but I could pay 1 less. I can only pay 2 resources of these to hire the landlord during the first round. Simple, huh? Okay. Now remember, our objective is to score, just maximise our citizenship points, how satisfied are our citizens, and our building points. Are our citizens content with the infrastructure of the city? Let's get cracking then. So we said our councillors begin in the stone here in the quarry and here in the cathedral. We start with 1 resource wherever our councillor is standing. If you're playing multiplayer, what would happen is that starting with the starting player, everyone would place their councillors clockwise, so everyone would start with a different resource. Right, we're starting with stone, and we're ready to kick into the first turn of the game. Each round consists of 3 turns, and each turn we're playing one of our cards onto our player board here into one of these spots. So let's say I wanted to grab some wood. Okay, I can play this card, and I can play it into this 1 spot, the 2 spot, or the 3 spot. Okay, I'm going to play it here in the 1 spot. Right, now it says when we play an action card, so that's for step 1. Step 2 is we perform the actions, and we can perform one of each of these: a movement action, a card action, and then 3 bonus actions. Okay, these are optional bonus actions. And we can play these in any order we want. So let's start by taking our card action. Our card action is take the 1 resource. Okay, there's different actions. I'll come to these when we hit them. But there's actions to grab each resource. There's actions to take bonus town actions, and there's an action to reduce the cost of your advisors and your craftsmen. What I want to try and do this turn is make the most of this good labour conditions and grab an advisor. Now you can only grab the advisor where your town councillor is standing. Okay, so at the moment I could grab the archivist or the abbess. Or, because I've got one movement, I've placed my action in the one movement spot. I could move the councillor one space. Remember, everything moves clockwise. And now I can grab the bailiff or the schoolmarm. Okay, so it's my choice. But as it goes, I'm going to take my card action first and take the one wood. Okay. Just grab it from the country. You don't need one of your councillors here. You just grab it. Right, it's a free resource. Right, so now I've got one stone and one wood. So that's it. I've done my card action. Now I can do movement action or bonus action. My movement action, like I said, is to move one spot clockwise. Now I'm going to do that. I'm going to move my countryside councillor one spot clockwise. Now, every time you move the countryside councillor, what they do is they grab the resource of the place they end up. Okay, so grab one wood. Okay, now I've got 2 wood and 1 stone. Right, that's my movement action complete. So I've done movement, I've done card. Now I've got bonus actions. I could have done these first if I wish, but I'm going to do them now. Now I know I want to make use of good labour conditions, so I'm going to buy an advisor. And I'm standing here at the cathedral, so it's either the archivist or the abbess. The abbess costs 1 wood and 2 cloth. I don't have any cloth, so I can't buy this one, but I can buy the archivist for 1 stone, 1 cloth and 1 wood at 1 resource less this turn. Okay, remember the event, good labour conditions. So I'm going to pay 1 stone and 1 wood and grab the archivist. The archivist, we just place our advisors here to the left of our leader. Okay, we'll pay the 1 stone and 1 wood. They just go back to the countryside tiles where they came from. And this one has, this bolt of lightning here gives an immediate effect. Okay, there's 2 immediate effects. This one gives me 2 citizen points. This one gives me 2 books. So we're off and running. I take my citizen and start marking my score. I've got 2 points. And I get 2 books. And the reason why books are good is because they give you heaps of points. At the market, I can turn in 1 book for 3 citizen points, 2 books for 6, 3 for 10, 4 for 15, and 5 for 21. So you can see if I collect more, I can actually get additional points for them. This spot's now empty in the town, so we replace it with the top advisor from this what's called the B deck. They've got B's in the bottom left and right. This one is Lady Frida. She just gives 12 citizen points. So we haven't really done much for building our economy right now. We don't have any ongoing effects. But we've ended our turn. We've done everything we can do. As my other bonus action is get one of these craftsmen, but they cost 2 resources each. I've only got 1 left. Remember, this good labour conditions only applies to advisors. And then the third bonus action is to increase my noble rank. That's what these things are up here. It gives you citizen points. It makes you a more famed leader. We've got Baron, Count, Prince, Marquess and Duke. But for those we're going to need these signet rings and possibly gold as well. So let's sit tight. Gold also acts like a wild resource. Okay, and we can turn resources in for gold here at the market. Right, that's it. So I've ended the first turn. Now I get a second turn. On my second turn, I can use one of my other 2 actions. So why don't we use this signet ring here? No, I'm going to use the stone. I'm going to use the stone at this point. So what I'm going to do is place this into the 2 spot because I want to get my engine moving a little bit faster. So remember, I can either take the card action first, which is actually grab a stone. I'm going to do that. Then I can take the move or the bonus actions. I'm actually going to take the movement action first. I'm going to move twice. And again, we're going to move on the countryside tile. So it's 2 clockwise. 1, 2. We've landed on the grain tile, so we grab a grain. And then I'm going to use the bonus action and hire a craftsman with 1 wood and 1 stone. If I look up on the tile where our countryside councillor is, there's 3 huts. And on the roofs of those huts are some costs. This one says 1 stone, 1 wood. This one says 2 wood. This says 1 wood, 1 cloth. I've just turned in 1 wood and 1 stone. I've paid the cost to put a craftsman in this hut. So I go to my player board and take the leftmost craftsman. And underneath here is a victory point number. It says 1. Okay, under each of these is subsequently more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so as I add more craftsmen, they give me more victory points. I immediately clock up 1 victory point. Takes me from 2 to 3. Okay, so that's citizenship points. And then I place this craftsman in the hut. What this means is from now on, whenever I visit this tile, not only do I gain the resource, but my craftsman can do one of these two things. It can take an additional resource, 1 grain in this case, or we can turn 1 grain in for 1 loaf of bread. And bread is good because we can turn breads in for points. Cool. I can't do it yet though, because that only happens when your councillor, your countryside councillor, ends a movement in the countryside. Alright, I think that's all I can do on this turn, so we end there. So I've taken my card action, I've taken my movement action, I've taken a single bonus action. I can't do the other two. I can't afford one of these yet, and I can't afford to increase my noble rank. But I've got 1 card left, and that's the signet ring, which I'm placing into this number 3 movement spot. So my card action this time is to take a signet ring. I'm going to immediately take the bonus action. Remember, I don't have to do these in order. I've taken my card action. I can take bonus actions and then the movement action. I'm going to turn in this signet ring and buy the Baron. This is the cost here on the top left. You can see different ranks cost different numbers of signet rings and gold. Okay, and they award you different numbers of points. So this one awards me 3 citizenship points. If I become a count, you have to do them from left to right. You can't take this before you take this. Okay, so you progress up the ranks. If I become a count, I take 6 points, unless somebody else takes it first. And Victoria, our dummy player, could take it first. Whoever takes it second only gets 5 points, and they get progressively lower. Okay. As it goes, I've become a Baron, and this is going to give me 3 points. I place this under here like we're now wearing the Baron crown. And I'll grab my 3 points. We're up to 6. I've got my 3 movement that I can take. So I could either go 1, 2, 3, grab some cloth, 1, 2, 3, do some work at the market. Fortunately, I can't afford any more of these advisors. So I think I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 and grab some cloth. I've got cloth and grain. This one costs wood and grain. This one costs wood and wood, wood and stone. So I can't get another craftsman, and I can't get the abbess. Lady Frida costs a lot of resources, but even this one, it's 1 wood and 2 cloth, and I've only got, so I could do 1 cloth, but then I've got grain, not wood. Okay, so that's it. That's my 3 actions done, and that ends the round. So what we do now is we flip these over to say we've ended the round. We draw 3 more cards, 1, 2, 3. This is our hand for next turn. And now we can start playing another round of 3 lots of actions. Okay, so we've got cloth this time, grain. This one means we can turn resources into gold. Okay. Incidentally, these 2 little points here, they just remind you of endgame scoring. Once we get to the end of the game, in other words, once we've got through 6 rounds, you get 2 points for each signet ring you have collected. Signet rings represent your influence with the king. Remember, at the moment we're just a baron in this town. And you also get 1 victory point for every, and these victory points can be turned either into citizen points or building points. And in the case here, you could actually split them. So you could take 2 citizenships, you can take 2 building, or you can take 1 of each. All right, remember your end score is going to be whichever is the lowest of these 2. These are called favours. I'll show you those in a moment. Favours, books, gold and bread, and then for every 2 resources, you can turn each of those into 1 victory point, citizen or building.